Hey, welcome back. So I left off the last video like a dum-dum. All we needed to do was say value here. We're passing in the value directly um, as a prop called value, and it has nothing to do. We're putting break and session here, so we don't need to even worry about that. Just value. Super simple. I'm going to have this uh, CSS. There isn't much CSS. I'm leaving most of the CSS to you, but there is some basic CSS here, and without getting into it, it's just basically flex containers. We don't need to talk about that, but I will have this, a link to this in the comments on every video, so you'll be able to access the styles and just copy and paste that into your CSS. But you do need to add, we'll add some class names here real quick. We'll add a class name of set timers or set timer. We'll add a class name of set timer to that. And we're going to add a class name of set timer controls. The div that wraps those the two buttons and the div. And then on this div right here that wraps them both down on our actual app, we'll do settings. So we had set timer dash controls, and settings. All right. So we've got that. Now we'll move on to our timer component. Like so. And I'm just going to reference my project quickly. Okay. So we have to display a couple of H1s here. One's going to be that label. That label switches back and forth because we want it to say session when it's in a session, but once it goes down to 0, it's going to wrap over to the break, and we want this to say break, or whatever. You want to indicate to the user whether you're counting down a session or a break. Otherwise, how are they supposed to know what's going on within the app? So here we're going to need some kind of label. We'll have to pass in a label at some point. And here we're actually going to need, this is where the actual time goes. So at some point we're going to need the time there. I have to pass that in, and I believe we're going to give this a class of, we're going to give this a class of timer. So class name is the timer. So we just pop in our timer, like so. So we know our label starts out as session. So just want to keep it consistent. Sorry, I keep switching back and forth. Okay, I do call it label. No, I call it mode. So we're in a session mode. Let's say switch it. We'll switch it to mode. Keep it consistent. So we'll change the label to mode. And then we'll say mode is session. And we're going to say this is session. Otherwise, we'll say break. We'll say mode here is this.state.mode. And then it's going to initialize it to session for us. So then time, what is time going to be? We need to make the state for time. So we don't know what time is. This is the crux, one of the cruxes of the problem. We know it's going to be 25 minutes to start out with, but we're not going to be using minutes. We need minutes and seconds. And whenever we're dealing with time in JavaScript, a lot of the native functions that use time, like set timeout and set interval, and pretty much anything that uses time is going to use milliseconds. So 1 second is 1,000 milliseconds. And that's how we're going to be using time. But we've got 25 minutes here, so I'll let JavaScript do the work. I'll just say 25, and there's 60 seconds in a minute, and then there's 1,000 milliseconds in a second. So that's what our initial time is going to be for 25 minutes. And JavaScript will do that math for us. The time is this.state.time. Okay, so that's not good. How are we going to format that time? And I'm going to clue you in on a cool shortcut here. I'll do moment.js. If you just type in moment to Google and search it, this is the official library to deal with times. But I didn't see a, I didn't see a way, you have your node install here, but that's another topic. So what I did was I typed in cdn moment.js, and that's a content delivery network, to try to get moment. And a lot of them, you want to go down the bottom and get moment.min.js, and just click copy right there. And then over in here, go to your JavaScript and add another reference, and paste that in there. Now we can use moment in our app. So when we're passing the time in, we can say moment this.state.time, .format. We pass in a format, in this case MM:SS, and that's how you get milliseconds formatted down into the way we want it very easily. And we can go back and look at moments documentation, and they have a lot of documentation here about formatting, so forth and so on. Here's a little chart. I'm looking for this chart. But this chart has all the different things. So MM represents, you get a double digit minute, whereas 1M you would get a single digit minute. Same with the seconds, we're getting a double digit second. And you can combine all these different formats, but in a nutshell, you can check that out on your own time, but in a nutshell, we've got it right here solved.